I Swiped Wrong by Mariani Coito. Do you ever have conversations with yourself, replaying events that happened in your head and playing out things you could have or should have said? Or do you imagine scenarios while in the shower and actually feel an emotional response like they're happening for real? I used to fantasize about breaking into Joseph's phone. I would think of a good password to try and think, yes, I'm in. And then I would go through all his texts to discover why women were always texting him at 3 a.m. I would go through his DMs to make sure he really wasn't talking to all the naked women he followed on his social media accounts. I would check his photos to see if he was documenting moments with another woman, and that's why he refused to make a birthday post for me or tag me in date nights on his story. That's the clarity I need, I thought. I tried my best to trust Joseph. That's my anxiety talking, I would say to myself. That's all my hurt from past relationships making me doubt him. He's telling me he would never hurt me. He'd never do me wrong. I'm being crazy. I'm overreacting. Nothing is wrong. Things with Joseph were good. He was being caring and attentive. He was doing things with me and planning them himself. You know, the bare minimum. The Thursday before Joseph's birthday weekend in September, he told me that his parents bought him a flight to Virginia for Sunday. He'd come back on Monday. His birthday was on Monday. And that we would have to alter our plans. We had a whole movie and pizza night planned. I bought some lingerie, thoughtful gifts, and some wine. He told me he wanted to stay in for his birthday. Being the flexible and naive person that I am, I said, "Okay, let's do the birthday thing on Saturday. I'll sleep over and we can make breakfast before you go into work on Sunday. And then on Monday night, when I pick you up from the airport, we can have some cake or something. I can drive you to the airport, too." "No, you don't have to take me to the airport," he exclaimed, squeezing my hand. I persisted. "I want to. It's not a big deal." His face coiled a bit. "No, it's okay, babe." Why don't you want me to drive you?" I was getting impatient and suspicious. "Because someone from work is already driving me," he said with his chest. I paused and thought it over. "Okay, tell them you don't need the ride. I'm not understanding the problem. You drove me to the airport when I flew to New York in June and had me cancel on my brother." He seemed like he was getting frustrated. "Well, work is doing a surprise birthday thing for me, and a couple people are taking me straight thereafter, and I'm leaving my car at work." "Oh, that's nice of them." I was sad he didn't invite me. He smirked, looking relieved. "Yeah, I wasn't supposed to know about it, but Mandy let it slip." My nose flared at the sound of her name. Mandy was a middle-aged divorced mom who bartended at his golf course. She texted him every night. They talked all the time, and it bothered the fuck out of me. On Sunday night, he didn't tell me when he got on his flight or when he landed. He didn't send me his flight information like I'd asked, so there was no way to check. He ignored me most of Monday until a 2 a.m. voice message saying how much he missed me and how much he loved me. He sounded wasted. On Tuesday, he finally called me, informing me that he'd missed his flight because he'd gotten too drunk on Monday night. I asked if I could pick him up at the airport when he landed, and he said, "No, thanks, babe, I got it." I asked about his parents, and he said, "They're good. Old." I asked about the weather in Virginia, and he said, "It's getting chilly." I asked why he'd ignored me all day, and he said, "I got fired, and I was embarrassed to tell you." Joseph got fired right before his surprise birthday party at work. He kept that to himself all weekend because he said he felt embarrassed. I felt pity for him. As soon as he got in on Tuesday, after he missed his flight back on Monday, I drove straight to his house after work and comforted him, told him it would all be okay, that we would figure it out together. A beautiful, blissful 2 weeks later, I asked to see pictures we took at the beach on his phone from that afternoon, and I noticed a picture of him kissing Mandy on the forehead. My stomach lurched at the quick glimpse of this picture. I carefully and nervously tapped on the picture to open it. Joseph, his eyes closed, had his lips pressed on Mandy's forehead, her blue eyes and white smile mocking me with glee. It had his birthday's date on it, and the picture was taken in Orlando. My stomach sank. Were you in Orlando for your birthday with Mandy? My hands began to tremble. He quickly grabbed the phone from my hands. No, what are you talking about? First of all, why the fuck are you kissing Mandy's forehead like that in that picture? Second of all, why the fuck does it say your birthday and Orlando at the top? My blood was boiling and my upper lip formed beads of sweat, but I felt a chill run down my spine. The sound muffled in my ears and I felt a tingling in my cheeks indicating the blood rushing from my face. I felt sick. Without any hesitation, he had an excuse. That picture's from a trip all my friends took in February, and Mandy sent them to me on my birthday to cheer me up after getting fired. She shouldn't have sent that. I'm sorry. I didn't acknowledge this. Can I see that photo again? My voice was thick. No, babe, why do you want to see it again? To torture yourself? Come on, let it go. Nothing happened. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. It's an old photo. I love you. I want to be with you, no one else. It's you and me, baby. He stood up, wrapped me in his arms, and kissed my forehead. This calmed down my anxiety a bit. Was I overreacting? What if it was just an old photo? I kept pressing him the rest of the night. So you went to Virginia? Are you sure you didn't go to Orlando? Are you lying to me? Please, be honest with me. I couldn't let it go. Something in my gut was telling me to keep pressing him on it. Exhausted emotionally and physically, I went to lay down. Relief plastered across his face. I'm going to stay up and finish this episode. Be there in a minute. I love you. You have nothing to worry about. I would never hurt you. Trust me. I love you. I got to his room and lay down in his bed, and I noticed his old iPhone that he used for music on the nightstand. It didn't have a passcode, so I opened it easily. I clicked on photos, my hands shaking, and listened for the episode of the show he was watching in the other room to end. I looked at the photo of him and Mandy again, terrified of getting caught. I scrolled through the photos before it and after it. All of them were of just them two. They had lanyards around their necks, fast passes for the rides to an amusement park. I zoomed in on the lanyards. Beetlejuice, 30 years of 30 fears. Wait. I saw a commercial about that. That's this year's Halloween theme at the amusement park in Orlando, I thought. I was shaking. I could hear the thumping of my chest loud in my ears. That wasn't enough. I needed more proof. I opened up the apps he recently downloaded. There it was. The app to the amusement park, downloaded on Sunday, the day he supposedly went on a trip to Virginia. I put the phone back on the nightstand, got out of his bed, and walked back into the living room. I grabbed the remote, rage fermenting inside of me, and shut off the TV. Whoa, what's wrong? He must have seen it on my face. I know you went to Orlando. I know you never wanted the rides to the airport because you never went to Virginia. I need you to tell me the truth. He didn't admit it. I asked him to show me a boarding pass from his flight. He refused. I asked him to show me the texts between him and Mandy when she sent him the photos, like he said. He refused. I showed him the evidence on his old phone. He still did not admit it. I got on my knees on the floor, bawled my eyes out, and begged him for the truth. He still did not admit it. Instead, he sat down on the floor with me and held me and spoke to me just above a whisper. Please, nothing happened. This is a big misunderstanding. I didn't go to Orlando. Please come to bed. I love you. I could never do that to you. You know me. Please stop. Tears welled up in his eyes, and as I looked up at his face, he was crying too. I was exhausted. I had to be up in 3 hours for work. My eyes were sore from crying. I was still shaking from the hurt, and I desperately wanted to believe him. So I shut up, got up from the ground, blew my nose, and lay down in bed next to him, stiff as a board. I didn't get a wink of sleep that night and stared up at the ceiling, my mind reeling with the possibility of my fears coming true. My boyfriend decided to go on a trip with another woman whom he talks to every day and every night for his birthday, and then lied to me about it for days. He drove the 3 hours there and back with her. He stayed at the hotel with her. He spent money on a trip with her, yet he couldn't even buy me a birthday present because, quote, money was tight. How can someone lie to my face like that? I could never lie to someone I love like that. Does he even love me? Has he been cheating on me this whole time? This played in my head over and over. He slept in the bed beside me, occasionally putting his arm around me or inching closer, and I scooted as far as I could go at the edge of the bed. I would occasionally look over at him, wondering how in the fuck he could sleep so peacefully after getting caught. I couldn't lay there for another second, so I got up for work. I got ready. He pretended like nothing was wrong. He made a comment about my period making me emotional that I ignored. I kissed him goodbye. "You have nothing to worry about. I love you," he said as I closed the door behind me. When I got into my car, the anxiety started building again. I don't remember how I got to work. All of a sudden, I was parked, gathering my ID, shoving my lunch bag in my purse, and shrugging my bag onto my shoulder. I gripped my bag tightly, my knuckles white with angst, and walked straight into the principal's office. "I know I just got here, and I'm sorry, but I have to go home." She saw how upset I was. She gave me a hug. "Go," she said compassionately. I drove straight back to Joseph's apartment and pounded on the door. He opened the door, looking worried and surprised. "Everything okay?" My ears burned. "No, everything is not okay." I pushed my way into his apartment, put my keys on the coffee table, and remained standing. He walked around me, sat on the couch, and patted the seat next to him, signaling for me to join him. I shook my head. "I know you're lying. That's it for me. I'm done. This is over." He stroked his beard with his hand, gripped the back of his neck, covered both his knees with his hands, and sighed. "Okay." He paused. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone. I realized how stupid it was. I listened to all my friends who encouraged me to go." I gasped as he finally confirmed what I already knew. I folded in half from the pain in my heart. My hands caught myself on my knees. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "I panicked," he said hurriedly. "I knew you wouldn't understand. I wanted to go, but I knew you wouldn't want me to. But then you asked me so many questions, and I had to keep lying." I couldn't look at him. I covered my whole face with my hands and sobbed in his living room. He definitely fucked her, I thought. "Did you fuck her?" I snapped. He blinked hard like my words slapped him. "She wanted to, but I walked away. And that's when I went to the bar alone and got fucked up and sent you that voice message." I wanted to believe him, but I knew he was lying. Everything he'd ever said to me seemed like a lie. Our whole relationship suddenly became a lie. "I have to make a gyno appointment," I thought. My eyes darted around the room. Did I leave any stuff here? Oh my God. He cheated on me. Oh my God. My heart hurts. Oh my God. We were just talking about our future together. He's a liar. Who is he? Oh my God. Oh my God. My gaze landed on him, and I shook my head in disappointment and disbelief. "I can't believe you did this to me," I whispered, tears pouring out of my eyes. He stood up and walked toward me. "Please, I want to be with you. I love you. I'm sorry. There's no one else. I'll always love you. Please, you're amazing." He placed each of his hands just above my elbows. I suddenly became aware that I'd never stopped shaking my head, and my throat was thick with layers of snot and imprisoned sobs when I said, "I know I am. You don't deserve me. It's over. I'm going to go." I grabbed my keys from the coffee table, wiped my tears and my snot with the back of my hand, turned the door handle of his apartment for what was supposed to be the last time, and walked out into the warm, beautiful, sunny day. I felt betrayed, devastated, disappointed, embarrassed, and relieved. I was right. I was not crazy. I wasn't overreacting. It wasn't just my period making me emotional. It was him. Joseph and I tried to make it work again, even after this event. I thought I could forgive him, look past it. He promised me a different relationship, one where he would be loyal, honest, and an all-around better man. He stopped drinking, spent more time with me, and made more of an effort to talk about my feelings. It wasn't even a month of bliss before he hurt me again. Turns out all those fantasies of looking through his phone would bother me enough to come to fruition, and I found messages between him and other women online, bragging about his sexual conquests with multiple women throughout the course of our relationship, sexts back and forth, and even messages in different languages in which he used Google Translate to flirt with other women in different countries. Months later, Mandy messaged me on social media confessing that they'd been in a relationship since July. They had, in fact, had sex in Orlando and went on the trip as boyfriend and girlfriend. All the moments he spent ignoring me were spent with her. All the moments he spent ignoring her were spent with me. I also messaged Anna, the ex-girlfriend who went to Cape Cod. Turned out he kept inviting her over to have sex. They never actually dated. They were friends with benefits in the past, and when she got back from her trip, he wanted to reap the same benefits, despite being in a relationship with both Mandy and me. He was a cheater, a liar, a narcissist, a pathetic, sad little boy who somehow fooled me. I'm not proud that it took all of this for me to finally cut him out of my life. I should have never given him a second, third, fourth, or fifth chance. A leopard can't change its spots. In Joseph's case, a cheetah can't change its spots. I've had to face this fact. Joseph won't change. People don't change for the most part. People can change their routines and daily habits, their jobs, and their relationships. However, someone's character will remain intact. Joseph's default is dishonesty and selfishness. I loved him for all of his good qualities, his ability to make anything fun, his sarcasm and humor, his warm and affectionate nature, and his inquisitive mind. But I didn't love his dishonesty and selfishness, which means, ultimately, I didn't love his character. Walking away was never easy. Letting go was never easy. Putting my needs ahead of my desires and the desires of others was not easy for me. During the course of this relationship, I never felt secure or stable. The lows were low. Every time I stepped out of his apartment or ended a phone call, I couldn't be sure that we would talk again. The highs, on the other hand, were high. Sometimes I wonder if any relationship will measure up to the physical intimacy and the fun we had together. Looking back, he used sex to manipulate me. One second we were arguing, and the next he was making me feel good and asking me to move in with him. As a result of this emotional abuse, anxiety built a home in my chest. A terrible tenant, it pays rent when it wants, makes too much noise at inconvenient times, and hammers holes in the walls that are impossible to ignore. Being lied to and gaslighted leaves scars on one's well-being. It fucks with a person. It fucked with me. Suddenly, the simplest things were making me anxious. Listening to Chapter 5 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on Audible. Seeing commercials about amusement parks. Cleaning. Figuring out what to cook. Going to work. Answering phone calls. Meeting new people. Writing this book. I found myself lonely, sad, tired, and unable to cope with the trauma of being lied to and tricked over and over. I began questioning myself, wondering if I could ever trust anyone else again, but also scared that I would never be able to trust myself again. So, I sought help. My therapist helped me see that Joseph is the way he is because of his own trauma. And now that I have trauma of my own, due to these experiences, I can't let the next person I date be the victim of my trauma, the way I was with Joseph's. I refused to contribute to the cycle of trauma that damaged people are creating in this dating world. I planned to heal.